Hello, hello, and welcome to the Dream Hour Descendant Speaker Series. I am your host tonight, Shamika Whitson, and our lecture tonight will be presented by Rudy Herrera. During the lecture, we do encourage you to leave any questions that you may have in the chat box, as there will be a question and answer segment at the end. Rudy was born in El Paso, Texas in 1985. He left El Paso at the age of 13. His family is of native descent, growing up in and out of the Tigua reservation located in El Paso County, and spent their leisure time in Juarez. When he moved to San Antonio, he embraced it as his home. It was the first time in his youth that a structured and stable home life was made available. He found his family and then later created one of his own. He is humbled at the thought of being one of the many success stories that inspired him growing up. He has remained a passionate, practicing artist and continues to challenge himself through various artistic endeavors. Please help me give a warm welcome to our speaker, Mr. Rudy Herrera.
Hey everyone, hey, how's it going? So yeah, my name's Rudy Herrera. I want to talk today about just kind of how I fell into myself as far as identifying, who I am, and recognizing, everything that contributes to that. One of the biggest things I want to talk about is with my struggle personally. I found that there's, you know, when people, brown people, any other people, any kind of marginalized people, brown people, black people, there's always been, as a lot of us know, there's been an effort to put us in this other space, right? And so, you grow up with that, and I think, as you get older, there comes a point where you got to confront that with with some intelligence, with some critical thinking. You got to see how all that pertains to you and how you're going to continue moving with it or how you're going to address it, right? So I'm going to talk about that through my life, as I'm going to use the working examples of my life and how I come to deal with those and how I manage those, right? So I am of native descent from my mom's side. She was close to the Tigua community. She was the one that kind of kept us close to that, right? My dad was from northern Mexico, from Juarez. And, growing up as a kid, it was kind of like, in hindsight now, I could see there was a lot of turmoil, not only in my family structure, but a lot of other people's family structure, right? Like it wasn't a unique thing. And, you know, when you're young, you don't really understand why it's like that, right? As you get older, you can kind of look back at those things and there's little telltales that you could say, oh, that was something. And you could, correlate it to somebody else's struggle and be like, oh, you went through the same thing that happened to you too. And you kind of get to recognize that, it's a hustle. Like it's a systematic approach that they did to us, like one of the most obvious examples is, uh, is native people. They kind of they beat your language out of you, and like as you get older, like man, there's some of you that you could talk to your tia and your grandma about, where they'd get beat in school if they spoke Spanish or something like that, right? So these are systematic things that kept us, that were kind of put in our history to kind of wedge us from it. So and you may not recognize it at first, because it may just be like that's just how the way things are. And people always tell you, I know one of the biggest hangups I have is, um people always start counting their ancestry from Mexico. I'm Mexican and I'm this and that, and like, that's fine. I get it. You know what I mean? That's a lot of us. We say, Texas was Mexico and all stuff like that. People start their history there, but I think it's important for us to know that we started before that. We're from this area. This is our neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like we're from here, but there's been so much. There's been an effort, man. There's been a system in place to make us feel like other. There's been a system to put that hyphen right there, the Mexican American, to just make you feel like you're you're not like everybody else, right? And so that may not, and that happens to everybody, right? Like that happens. They do that with other races, and really, like at this point, man, it's like I think a lot of races, they put in the labor, and they got the credit to cash out and participate in whatever it is, this big old American thing, right? But there's always been an effort to keep us under a thumb, right? So I think what happens at that point, whether you recognize it or not, is that you end up feeling like all this is transitory, right? Like all this is kind of maybe not yours, or like you don't feel comfortable in a space. And again, I'm not trying to speak for you. This is just kind of models that I've had to address in my life, where sometimes I feel off about things or something like that. And like an example I could give is like there's been times where I've been talking to something like that, and somebody else will come in and like, we'll see this dude's allowed to get loud, right? And stuff like that. But you know, he's yelling or doing things like that, getting aggressive, and kind of us as the others, when we're in that place, we have to step forward with like a meekness, right? Because it feels like you don't want to be yelling in someone else's house. But the reality is that, in order for us to be here, I mean, anyone, any of you guys that fall underneath this other, in order for us to be here, like, man, there's a whole community behind. There was a group of women that had to learn how to raise kids with broken hearts. There was a bunch of men who had to learn how to go through it while swallowing their pride. And we're kind of, if you're here, you're the crescendo of all that. You're the living efforts of all that, right? And so I think once you kind of step on that conversation, start having that conversation with yourself, you could reclaim some stuff. You don't feel like, hey, I'm not. This is my house. I'll get loud too if I want to. If we're talking about it, you know let's really talk about it. And so I feel that, just speaking for me as a brown person, there's a lot of disconnect between that, right? Because you'll meet someone who starts their history at some point and maybe not recognizes the back history. And I'm not saying, everybody be like me and get where I'm at. I'm not talking about hierarchies like that. I understand that, we may be in different places, but only in the sense that we're looking at we have a different perspective on things, right? But what I try to do, or what I found a lot of solace and comfort in, and the way I felt comfortable in my skin, was just realizing that, hey, there was a group of people that were here for a long time, that sacrificed a lot for me to be here. And now that we're at where we're at, that awarded me a lot of privileges to do what I could do that they couldn't, right? So I would like everybody to kind of just, even privately, just have that conversation with you. If you're a brown person and you feel, you kind of feel under the thumb, you kind of feel, I mean, othered, there's a good there's something to gain from looking back in your history, thinking about your ancestry, and knowing that, you're married to this land, you're connected to this land. There's comfort in that, at least for me. And I think if we all kind of started looking at it that as that perspective, is it's only beneficial, because all these things that plague us, all these things that are vehicle to wedge us from each other, all those things can be combated with community, with the sense of community. And I think if you can be at a place where you could look at another person and be like, hey, this dude's actually more like me, and I'm speaking from the native staff, I like to say I'm in a transition, like my mom, she was from the reservations. She was diehard about that stuff. I only spent so much time there. I left when I was a youth. Now I became a man out here in this real world, right? In this America, San Antonio. So I have to know how to move with that, right? Not to forget where I came from, because it awarded me so many tools that maybe I wouldn't have come upon on myself. They were gifted to me by people before me, people who've shared this struggle and knew what I was gonna face. So, and the next generation that's my goal too. They not only left me the tools, but they left me a working model of how to pass it on to the next generation, how I pass it on to your son. how I told my son to treat your son who doesn't look like him. So, I think if there's more things that unite us than separate us, right? As humans and individuals. And I want to speak like on the brown community, we kind of need to start looking at it like that, because there is, I mean, man, even in the native community, you know what I mean? If I could speak on that, there's divisions in there. Like, you know, you'll run across some people, they'll talk down on other people because maybe they're not federally recognized tribe. You know what I mean? Maybe it's done with a little subtlety, but it's sprinkled on there. But if we learn to kind of, man, if we just look at it from a perspective of, we're a community that are, have the same goals in mind, I think it'll be easier to move with that than we think. Like sometimes that may seem like a big cross to bear, but it's not so heavy when you got your homie carrying it with you, or where you got somebody else from that community carrying it with you. And the reality is that we kind of all sharing that. We could, even if you haven't been through that space, like, man, it's not that different. I can at least imagine it, and with that, I could think about it. So to me, knowing all that, that was a big old thing to say that the way I do that is I'm an artist, right? I have the privilege, and I paint murals. I have the privilege to go to a place and speak loudly and talk to people who may not know me, may not, I would never run across in my regular life. I'm a bit of a homebody, but I'm awarded this big megaphone from time to time, right? So what what do we do with that voice? How do we talk to people? And I think the trick there, the way to do that is, you got to humble yourself. You got to make sure that you're not coming at a place where it's, I'm different than you in any regard, right? You need to get down to the core bits of humanity that cling each other. You need to jump onto that, and you need to build from that. And with art, that happens by talking to, if you're painting a mural, man, talk to the neighbor who's going to go there. Talk to the person who goes to that store every day to buy whatever, and really talk to those people, because, you know, there's um there's a chance to connect with people in that way, right? A stranger, and that will accrue. If I'm talking to somebody else and he don't know me, he doesn't know what I do. This is the first time he's meeting him. He's not familiar with my art. He's not interested in my life. But at 1 second, we're talking about, hey, what do we need to do on this wall, right? If I invest in him a little bit of time and it means something to him, that splash now turns into a ripple when it hits his neighbor, it hits his son, he has a little story about it. Now there's an involvement from the community, right? So to me, that's how I do it, because that's going to reach the most people. That's the way I know how to speak. That's my language, right? So I make an effort to communicate with the community and to do something that speaks to greater something than me, right? Because I'm gonna put it out there, but man, if I'm just out there and I'm doing whatever Rudy wants to do, I'm really just pillaging your land, man. I'm really just getting you for your resources. I'm gonna get my shine and be out. And that's not how you put equity into community. So you need to go out there and really talk to these people, and not in a vague way. I'm not talking about going out there and, hey, what do you think? Shaking hands. I'm Rudy. Let me know if you need anything. You really need to move in a meaningful way, talk to this person, get their names, and be conscious of what you're putting out there, right? Because not a lot of people get this opportunity. And this is, like I said before, this is the only tool that's really going to combat a lot of the poisons that ail our community. You know what I mean? You know, the brown community, over here, I live over here by Woodland Lake. If you go down a certain ways, man, there's a lot of places that look like, I used to live in the east side in the early 2000s, and man, I see there's a lot of mirrors, man. There's the same tactics used against us, so I got to be able to move. When I paint something over here, Zaza Mora, I got to be able to get down and talk to this dude the same way I got to be able to get down and talk to this guy over here in Denver Heights. You know what I mean? And that's really the only way I feel, or that I believe, and the way I move, is how we're going to build these bridges, and these bridges, or these ladders out of where we're at, is just communication and labor. There's really no easy way around it. It's talking to who lives next to you. It's talking to somebody who doesn't look like you, seeing where they're at, seeing what they got to offer you, how you could help them, and how they could help you. And ultimately, the way we do that is by taking a second to at least take down all these things that we carry with us, right? Like when I go to this dude, obviously I'm Rudy, the native guy, because I carry that with me, right? I'm proud of that. I move with that, but I got to be able to kind of just carry that a little low, just so I can talk to this guy for a little bit, be less whatever, abrasive, or let him know that my agenda needs to meet his agenda, and we'll move with it together, right? Because he's gonna put whatever he is to, just like I'm gonna put whatever I am to. But for a second, there needs to be some kind of intimacy. There needs to be some mercy in the exchange, so we can get something genuine out of it. So that's pretty much, yeah, I think that's mostly what I got to say about it, man. Just to kind of sum it all up. I know it's kind of rambling a bit, but I think if we can get to a place where we can identify as less disconnected, and just kind of relate to the things that bring us together, I think we'd be better off, man. And that's coming from you know this dude Rudy, Tigua from out of El Paso. That's what I got.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rudy. I truly mean that, for sharing just such intimate pieces of yourself. And I definitely agree. We are more alike than we are different. We're all survivors of our ancestors, right? And
Yeah,
so the sooner we can all come to realize that and use that to build strengths amongst each other, like you said, build bridges, find
yeah,
a way,
exactly.
fellow man or woman. I
Yeah.
definitely agree. That's awesome. Well, I do have a question for you, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Okay.
I want to kind of know, what advice would you give someone, potentially, I guess, going through some of the same challenges that maybe you endured? Like, even, I mean, I don't know if you went through any of a shock, if you will, moving from El Paso to San Antonio, outside of just having to make a new place your home, but would you potentially have any advice for someone that may be struggling with living somewhere else new? And I can even speak for myself. I'm originally from Houston, and when I moved to San Antonio, it was different, and I've had to
Yeah.
adjust, acclimate, right? But hearing from in your own words, what advice would you give someone that may be enduring some of those challenges in a move like that, or just trying to find their place? You know.
I'd say to somebody like that, whoever's making a big transition, whether it's from place or identity, or just your mental stance, you know, I would say have faith in yourself, and don't be afraid to rely on community, because you know, like I say, you all one of us, every one of us, or like you said, we're little bits of a collection of survivors. You know what I mean? We're little bits of our grandmas, our tios, and all this. We're all those tough bits that made it through for us to be here now. So there's a lot of strength in us that we don't really tap into until we really need to. But it's always there. It's available when you want it. And with that being said, also, one of those strengths is, if you got it. I know some of us might not, but just the people around you, man. Just find a little community you can confide in, and be comfortable moving. I say naked, but I don't mean like physically, but I say like naked and genuinely. That you could man, you could put down that load for a second and just breathe, and exchange with somebody. That way you could put it back on and rejuvenate it. So I guess my advice to that would be just have a little faith in yourself. You're a lot stronger than you know. And don't be afraid, if it is heavy at some points, to reach out to somebody. Find a community, someone who will hear you for a sec. You know?
Awesome. Thank you for that. I have another question from someone watching.
All
The
right.
question is, what do you think of these times where many of us are connected via a virtual or social media world versus being connected via shared lands or connected to our environment and inhabiting the physical world? Have we gotten to a point where we no longer share the need to live in a spiritual world? How does art lead the way? Few questions in that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Let me try to unpack that. Let me try to unpack. Okay, so with the, I guess with the social media thing, a working example of that I got it is, I got a little boy, and during the whole pandemic, we've been home. We just kind of, I mean, I'll be real. I'm a bit of a homebody, so there's a lot of times where I use this as an excuse to stay home, but not everybody in my family is like that. So as far as the social media stuff, I think it's important. You know, right now, I think its biggest utility is just keeping us connected in a small way. So I like that at least that's available. That's the kind of a privilege that you know is unique to now. And I guess as far as keeping our intimacy with the land or the space around us, um, I'll share a little trick that I do. I have a little. I live over here by Woodlawn, right? I have a pretty good backyard. I have a little patch in the backyard that I kind of go and I sit to, and it's my little sacred place, and I make sure I keep clean, and I keep some ceremony to it, and it's just kind of my way of showing appreciation and being thankful for. And I think you don't really have to look far to find that. That's not You don't have to find that on a hiking trail or anything like that. That can literally be in your backyard. And as far as the art and the connection and I believe the spirituality, I may be remembering that wrong, but um, I think the connection with that is it gives you a chance to really tap into something to kind of it's an opportunity for you to be very, very honest with yourself. It's an opportunity to test yourself. It's an opportunity to see where you're at. And if you're working with somebody else, man, I really do feel that one of the most generous things you can do if you are an artist, I feel one of the most generous, intimate thing you can do in an artist is sharing that creative process. So, I mean, that right there, that can connect people, as far as the spirituality. If you've ever, I don't know how to describe it any other way, but I mean, like, there's been times where I've been at a wall and it's like 100 degrees. I'm like 20 feet up in the air and I'm hot and I'm laboring through this stuff, man. You feel close to something, man. So I feel like anything, man. I feel like a lot of it is through the toil, through the labor. You do get in a meditative state, and yeah, that's and that's just through art. You know what I mean? Like that same kind of that same kind of exchange with something bigger can happen in a lot of things. I think the key is to just kind of, if you get that opportunity to be in that moment completely, then jump into it, man, because you're not gonna feel it halfway, or you're not gonna get there by feeling it halfway. You got to commit to that. So that's my answer for that. I hope I got all that. I hope I did.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Next question is it really possible to reverse those systemic problems?
Man, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't think so, man. I don't think a lot of those things are gonna change, man. We're not gonna get like an "I'm sorry, here's whatever it is to make it right." The reality is just black people, brown people, anybody who's been marginalized, man, to exist in America right now is just kind of, or I think it always has always been kind of a fight on your back. The fortunate thing for us is it is just right now a fight on our back. A couple years ago, that probably felt like a fight on your back underwater. You know what I mean? That probably felt like a fight on your back, with dirt, half your body buried. And the thing is that I don't think we can redo we can reverse it. I think the best thing we can do is just kind of man maybe, man, I don't even know. Maybe just minimalize the impact we allow it to have on us, you know. And I know that's kind of a, I know that's kind of a, that's kind of some dreamy words, man. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we don't get to have a say on how much that affects us. But I guess if I were to say how to, how to combat that, and I say all that, so let me back that up, right? Because that was soft, but you know, I feel one of the biggest things you can do is to kind of learn from other people, right? And what I mean from that is just, and I don't mean from from books or from something like that, but talk to people who really been through it, man. Because I mean, yeah, it wasn't that long ago, man. It's like your grandparents have a story. You know what I mean? Like your mom has a story. It wasn't that that crazy, and that's the thing, and that's another thing. That's another thing why some of those things get to perpetrate over and over and over again, because the kind of story dies out. You're not going to learn about that in school. You're not going to learn about some of this stuff at school. And you think, why? Well, we know why, right? If school don't got it and your parent doesn't got it, you got to think, why is that happening? It's like, because at some point somebody stopped talking about it because that shit hurt. That was damage to them. So I think if you can find out the stories, if you can find someone who's generous to keep it with you, and you move with them, you're at least aware of the pitfalls of what's been systematically used against us, right? And man, maybe just equip yourself as best as you can about it. I don't think there's any way to reverse it, man, but luckily I think we can forge tools that'll help us. Maybe we won't get out of it. Maybe the next generation won't get out of it, but hopefully the fight won't be as strenuous for the ones after us.
I
So yeah,
think the best that we can do, right? That's the whole
right.
point. We're trying to help the generations coming after us so they don't have to work as hard. So,
Exactly, exactly.
okay, well, final question for the night before we close out. I want to
Okay.
hear from you, what legacy would you like to leave in the community or the world? I would say, if you've had a chance to think about that.
Um, the legacy I would like to leave is I want to show people that you could do it, right? Like when I was a little kid, man, I don't know how, but I wanted to be an artist, right? I didn't know what that was. I don't know what that really meant. I know I wanted to kind of draw pictures. I didn't know what all this other stuff it would entail, right? But the reality is that uh, I'm doing it to some degree. You know what I mean? I'm still not, I don't have mimosas every Sunday at brunch or anything like that, but I got the lights on. I got the water bill gets paid for and stuff like that. So, and the reality is that I'm not a lot different than anybody else and a lot of these brown. You can see I got the braids right now, but if I cut my hair, I shave my head, I look like every other chubby dude you see in San Antonio. You know what I mean? And the reality is that it's normal people like me, like you, that make it happen. And I just hope that's the message I want to get across, man. That's the legacy I want to get across. Is just that if you're willing to if you're willing to do it, it does happen to some of us. You know what I mean? But how do you know if it's gonna be you if you don't put it out there? So I guess I'd like my legacy to be like just go out there and try it, man. Fail a couple times, get it right one time, or fail one time, or get it right off the bat. But the point is to go try, to make an effort. So that'd be my legacy, man. Is just go out and do it. However you feel you can talk to your community and help them out. Don't think about it too long, man. Just try it, see what happens.
I love that. We actually have one more question from
Okay.
Facebook, and this
Okay.
is regarding your art and advocacy. What are your dream goals that you wish to accomplish through your art and advocacy?
Mm, my dream goals, man. One of my dream goals is I really want to be around long enough to see the next group come up, man. That's what I want to see. I want to see I feel like I'm on the cusp of a different type of school, where I'm the wave right behind of what happened before me. And, I want to see the wave coming up behind me. I think I'd feel really honored if I could contribute to that to some way, whether it be talking to them or just sharing knowledge or opportunity with them. Um, that's what yeah, I'd really like to see that for the advocacy, man. I'd really like to see. I hope that's some of the change I inspire. I hope I hope when you see my stuff, my whatever indigenous stuff like that, at some point, it makes it easier for everybody else to kind of go and speak on it. I want that to happen. And I think that's the advocacy, is just to show that, and not just like, not just Indian stuff, not just native or like, whatever stuff. I want them to show, I want you to be a brown dude and, paint whatever weird stuff you want to do it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a super heavy thing like that. So I just, yeah, I guess that was a long-winded way to say in short, more opportunity, at least for the artists.
Speaking of art, where can we see your art, Rudy?
Well, my art, I mainly post on my Instagram, which is Cholo Tears, Cholo Tears. And yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. I got some stuff over there by the SWU building on Mesquite and Commerce. That's my Welcome to the East Side. East Side is Love piece. I have a piece over here on the Boba Bath on Fredericksburg. Um, where else did I got some stuff? I did a little a wine bar. Yeah, just check out my Instagram. I'm kind of sloppy about documenting my stuff, which I'm trying, but you can go there, get lost for a second. You can see where all my other stuff is, man.
Can you repeat your Instagram page handle one more time?
It's at Cholo Tears, Cholo Tears.
Okay, awesome. Well, I believe that is bringing us to the end of our speaker series for tonight. I want to thank every single one of you for tuning in, checking out Rudy, and for supporting Dream Week, of course. Is there anywhere else where someone can find you, Rudy, if they do want to keep in touch with you, Facebook at all, or just strictly Instagram?
Yeah, just strictly Instagram. I have my email on there. Yeah, I think that's it. We're gonna do some stuff on the south side pretty soon, so look forward to that. Hold me accountable if it doesn't pop up. But that's the move for the next while.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And until then, everyone, please check out the remaining speaker series that we have starting tomorrow. Take care. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.